I had a question that was a bit separate from that, which was to ask you about you guys went to the same high schools, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
God, it was
So-
fucking gay.
So you mentioned it was a gay high school.
Where they will just shove a phone in the face of some
Yeah.
poor worker, and it's like, right, so which order is it? And then I'm pointing,
Yeah.
if you're listening to this, and they'll just point to the phone, and it's like, this cannot be sustainable because they cannot simply, they can't even communicate in a sentence.
Hello and welcome to the Contemplation deck. I'm your host, the Stone Golem, and this is a very special episode where we're introducing a panel in real time amongst 4 IRL friends. But we're all going by Substack monikers, so it's going to be safe for the online world. We're all Australian, but different immigrant parent backgrounds, and we all grew up in the Sydney urban centre. The other part of this podcast is we're going to be talking a little about a stimulus documentary called Hotel Coolgardie, which gives a very intriguing perspective of 2 Finnish backpackers who go to work in a rural Australian town out in mining country called Coolgardie, which is full of the typical patrons you see in Western Australia, just drunk, horny, old farts, people who don't socialise very much, and likely on the disability support pension. And you look at it and you think, well, Jesus Christ, I wouldn't want to go to Australia after seeing that. We'd give our own perspective after seeing it and knowing a few characters like that at pretty feral pubs and just shoot the shit after that. It's called the Contemplation deck for a reason. So I'll first introduce my 2 new guests outside of my normal co-host Fish and Jish. And my first one is a reoccurring guest who was originally on Walt Bismarck. His name is Sasquatch, and he's sharing a microphone with me, so it should be very interesting. And there's also my friend Homeless. His name's, we'll call him Homer, and he went to university with me, but I won't say anything further than that. First to Fish and Jish, my co-host, and then next to Sassy, and then Homer.
All right, yeah, so I'm guessing, Mr. Stern, we're starting off with our family background, did you say before?
Yeah, I was saying that.
Yeah.
Basically, just we start kids and grandkids, so we all grew up in like the Sydney urban centre.
Yeah, for me, I've probably got, to be honest, the more boring background here, but I'll start off. Yeah, my parents from England, they came here, I think just before I was born, around 93, 94, on a world trip. Yeah, and they had me over here. They came to Australia like a lot of other people, partly economically on the equivalent of the 189 point skill tested visa, as it is known now, or whatever it was back then. But yeah, so obviously they also liked the look of this place. You know, they really liked the harbour and the way it looked and all that sort of stuff. And I'm sure obviously it helps that it's another English speaking country as well. Yeah, I suppose I've had a bit more of a so-called typical upbringing here, majority upbringing, Anglo upbringing. But I would say that some people say I've got a slight English accent, which some people at school, you know, hilariously picked up on, you know, asking stupid questions like, you know, why do you sound English or something like that? And I sort of have to say, you know, oh yeah, I just got English parents, because I even know that English immigrants, at least until recently, are some of the most populated immigrant groups coming to Australia. They I don't think usually they sound quite so English. I mean, I only sound slightly English, but I'd say things like, for example, instead of dance, I'd say dance, or other sort of things like that. I'd pick up some other terms from from my parents. Like I guess sometimes a pillock or something like that. Random Englishisms like that. Otherwise, for the Hotel Coolgardie thing. I didn't get around this time to watch it, but according to the summary of my panelists that my friends told me about, it seems like it's a documentary on probably the darker side of what backpacker visa holders, I'm guessing like working holiday visa holders sometimes go through. Sometimes the manipulation of what they go through in Australia, some dodgy things in the visa system. Obviously, as I've said before, I work for the Australian government, but my views are of my own, and I do not represent the Australian government. But I'm sure it's public knowledge as well that obviously there are some kind of weird things that happen in the migration system, and the ABF and all are aware of it and all. So yeah, I'd put the mic to one of the other panelists.
Your microphone, you're recording.
Yeah, righto. Oh, sorry. I always forget. I'm in true Australian fashion. And we were just hanging out, me and Stu and Gollum, and from the pub all the way to the podcast booth. So you got to love it. You can't get any more Australian than that. But my background is pretty what you would call, well, they used to call it diverse, but it's not anymore because I'm not from the local south, as they would call it, or the third world. Thank goodness for that. Yeah, so my background is that my father is from the United Kingdom. He's English, from a town in Winchester, and as is my grandmother. And my grandfather is from London, but with a Scottish background. My great-grandmother is from a town called Musselbrook, which is near Edinburgh. Never been. But where it gets interesting, if you were to say that, is on mum's side. Now, she's from a country that, thank goodness, it doesn't exist anymore, right? The Union of Soviet Socialist Republics, the Soviet Union, the old evil empire. She's now from Ukraine, born in Kiev, which, if any of you guys have picked up a newspaper, it's not all sunshine and roses over there. So they came out in 1969 and 1980 respectively. And yeah, they came on an immigration visa. And my grandfather was, on my dad's side, was working for the British government, was as a vet in terms of in quarantine. But my mother was, an immigrant. Proper immigrant in terms of the fact that she was in a refugee camp in Italy before coming here. And her story, when she got picked and went to a very exclusive school, and is now doing quite well in the corporate world, which is, if you want to talk about integrating and model minority, I don't think you can find a much better story. Picked up English very quick, topped the HSC with 99.9. And I'm going to be honest, I'm pretty proud of it. But if you can't notice by the accent, I've basically lived here all my life, and I wouldn't have it any other way. This is God's country, and I don't care what anyone else has to say about it. Well, except for these three fine gentlemen. But everyone else, most of them can go hang.
Pass it on to...
Yeah. Now, it's funny, I will give listeners here. I was born in a former British colony, which is now a special administrative region, Hong Kong. And, I'm passing it on to Homer. And, so we've got a little bit of a connection there. Tell us all about yourself, mate.
Cool. I am Homer, and my background is my parents are from Beijing, China. So I am Chinese of ethnicity. So, we got that connection with Sassy over here. He's born in Hong Kong, but I was born in Australia. After my parents emigrated here in around 1995-ish, and I was born soon after. So yeah, I learned Chinese from my parents. I know Mandarin, but I've only ever visited and not lived extensively in China. My parents, they came here, they immigrated, I think, in the 1990s. They brought my brother over from China. He was born in China. And we grew up in the western suburbs of Sydney. It's a bit of a melting pot of immigrants. And my parents, they studied university in China, but when they came over here, the university degrees weren't accepted. So my dad retrained. He went back to university. My mom didn't. My dad, he did like engineering in university at UTS, and he worked at Optus. And then my mom, she worked for one of the ticketing companies for the trains and transport. Obviously, they didn't start off there, but they kind of worked their way up over time. Initially, my dad came over by himself because his brother actually was one of the first to come over on a visa, because his wife came over to study in Australia at a university, and then so my dad's brother's wife came here first and then brought my dad's brother, then my dad's brother brought my dad, who brought my mom. Yeah.
No, thank you very much, Homer. That was really interesting. Actually, I'm probably the only person in the group with like the most mongrel background. It's for which is pretty interesting. I mean, actually, my friend in the corner there, I'm more mongrel than him, but he's still a little bit mongrel. I mean, he's got a different.
Once a mongrel, always a mongrel, mate.
Well, there we go. I've known him since I was a kid, so I get the right to say it. But what happens is, I'm 50% Ashkenazi Polish, and then 12.5% Estonian from some random little island in the middle of the Baltic Sea called Muhu, and then 37.5% Scottish. So I've got a very esoteric and very interesting ethnic background. When I did Ancestry, it was telling me I was only 25% Ashkenazi, which I think is a lie. But very, very, very interesting.
Somebody throw some pennies on the floor.
Yeah. I didn't. I think it was trying to say that I was less Jewish than I was, but I think they're the ones being Jewish. It's all very interesting too, because like a lot of other Jews, unlike a lot of other Jews, I didn't grow up in the eastern suburbs or the North Shore and some really rich little walled area.
Yeah. Take it easy.
My friend
cool
Sassy
it down
over
on
there.
the anti-Semitism.
Yeah, my friend and Sassy over in the corner there. He grew up in a richer area than me, but then at the same time, like I didn't grow up in a poor area. I grew up in this area.
You grew up in like the equivalent of like the Haight-Ashbury, Greenwich Village. Like, I mean, I'm just going to be quite honest. It's gentrified and gay. Like, it's still got money, but you just don't spend it on, like, you guys don't make it look nice.
All right? It's pretty much that.
That's what it is.
Where did you grow up again?
And I'm just going to mention, like, where I grew up. I grew up in this little peninsula overlooking the harbour. Like, yeah, it sounds really poor, right? And it's an area called Balmain and Roselle. And it's overlooking the harbour, but it's not as expensive as like the other areas overlooking the harbour, like Mossman, or like the eastern suburbs, or like Vaucluse, because it's still got some social housing there. But it's still pretty rich, and most of the people living there, they vote for progressive parties, but they don't want to give up their property values anytime soon. I'd also say that
no one does in Australia.
Well, no one. Yeah, as my friend Fish and Jish was mentioning to me just now, most people in Australia don't want to give up their property values. It's a pretty lucrative pyramid scheme.
We have to actually say to prospective immigrants now, boys, property values are not the same as Australian values. It is a bit of an issue.
Yeah, it is a bit of an issue. We've got a massively bad pyramid scheme here. Once you're in it, you just don't want to let go, and that's typically the boomer generation. And once they all die, all fucking hell's gonna break loose. I'm pretty sure. From here, I'd probably say that the next part I'd probably want to talk about is Hotel Coolgardie. Probably is a good way to start, and just the thoughts on the backpacker experience that we think about, and what the impressions that even people from developed countries like in Europe, like Finland or England or whatever, have when they come on a working holiday visa here. They think they're going to get the best experience ever, but they only get to stay for maybe like a couple months before the Australian government tells them, oh, you can stay a little bit longer, but you have to work on a farm or out in the rural region somewhere. And usually have to approach a migration agent who sends them to the middle of nowhere because they don't know the country very well. And the migration agent tells them, oh yeah, you'll earn a heap of money here. But usually if they're female and, pretty attractive, they're probably a lucrative employee for some stingy bar somewhere with some really feral clients. And me and my friend Homeless over here are probably the only two on the panel who watched it, but my other two friends on the panel here are pretty familiar with the kind of feral clients that exist. And there was only a story somewhat recently with some 19-year-olds that they had a bit of an interaction with, which was pretty interesting to probably them to recount. Yeah. And I'll first start with Homeless and his reaction to the documentary, and maybe I'll move on to the other two panelists, and then I'll give my thoughts on the documentary. It'll be interesting to talk about because we'll be cycling a few topics here, but mainly the general theme around, the doco and just feral bar clients in Australia. I'll pass on to Homeless next and see.
Stern, that doco that you recommended, Hotel Coolgardie, I felt dirty after watching it. I felt like I needed to take a long shower because it was just so sleazy. Jish and Sassy, if you guys haven't seen it, but I'll summarize it. It's like
I'll watch it in a couple of years.
There's no need for spoilers because it's just like an Australian urban myth. It's like two was it Finnish backpackers, girls, attractive young girls. They go to like some mining town like Coolgardie, right? It's like there's but fucking nothing to do there, and you have like the most grubby men that come into the bar, and they're just there because they're just trying to hit on these girls, right? And then while these girls are trying to learn and like do bartending for the first time, the owner is just like insulting them in the most like thick Aussie accent, so that they don't really understand what they're saying, right? But he's just insulting them the whole time. They're just trying to learn, and that's just like day one, and it just gets progressively worse from there as like these guys become more and more persistent at trying to like sleep with these girls, and the bar staff don't seem to really care. In fact, they're actually advertising these girls as like new girls, right? Like it's some kind of fucking fresh meat. That's what they say in the doco. That's what they say in the doco to their face as well, and it's like it's just so egregious.
Before I watched it,
Yeah, and the fact that while they're filming the doco, none of the guys who are like being grubby care about it. They just continually be grubby, and it's like I just think to myself, if these guys from the doco weren't there, like how much worse would it have been? It would have been horrible. I don't know. That's my thoughts. But
you reckon that they somewhat moderated the behavior because they knew that it was on camera?
Oh yeah, for sure. I feel like some guys like they have sleeping quarters above the bar, right? The girls. And some guys were trying to like they went in without anyone inviting them, and they're just like lying on the couches there, and the girl was like telling them to go home, and the guy's just standing there like after like being told like 15 times to go home. He's just like he looks at the camera and then he's like, all right.
Yeah. What's real? What the reason I chose the film as well is because there was a documentary. There was a horror film that was made by a female director last year, inspired off this doco, and it's called The Royal Hotel. Right. But they changed the main actors to be not Finnish but American women, and they're working in some fictitious town. And the Australian men in this horror film are basically acting like more cartoonish versions of these men that existed in Coolgardie, which I think is a bit unnecessary because it's like basically making all these already feral men into like characters out of Wolf Creek or something. But I still need to watch the horror film inspired by the doco, but the doco is enough in my view. Just, you have to watch it. It's on Amazon Prime. You could probably find it somewhere else if you went to justwatch.com in your own country, but it's an absolute must-watch.
And how do you spell that?
Hotel, Hotel,
Yeah, we know that. We're not too dumb.
and then COOLGARDIE. So if you look that up on your phone, I'll pass it on to Fish and Jish and Sassy over in the corner of the room here, and just talk a little bit about the feral 19-year-old story. And this wasn't even at some rural pub. It was
no, this was in one of the nicest and one of literally the richest suburb in this country.
It was by a trust fund. They look like a trust fund.
Well, I mean, that's everybody in the suburb that, that I'm situated in. But no, like, I remember a quote where it's like the classy people, the people that are really big into acting classy, are usually the trashiest people.
Yeah.
And I think we saw that on Thursday night, didn't we, Josh?
Yeah.
I go down there. This is one of my local clubs. I have two of them. And I'm just there. I've just been actually with another mate at a local up in Bondi, which the Gollum and I were a few hours ago. But that's on point. So we're around the area. I go in. I have a couple of beers, and by a couple I mean I think it's like my second pint of the night, like a really, really chill session, because I'm like, hey, it's this is Wednesday. Was it Wednesday or Thursday when it happened? Wednesday.
Yeah, Wednesday.
Yeah. So this is Wednesday. I've got stuff to do the next morning, so we're not going to go too hard. Have a few appetizers and go home, man. Just something really simple. And this little kid, or should I rather say, can I swear on you?
Yeah, it's fine. Yeah.
This little shit.
Little kid makes it sound like he's a minor.
Absolute. Big huge problem. Yeah, but they all are dressing up as if they're just going to the races.
Oh, yeah.
And there's one girl with them. And this is probably how the kids try and impress the girls these days. They're going, have you heard of a barber, you fat cunt? I'm like, all right, no worries. If you want to sit there and poke fun at me and the fact that I've got long hair, cool. And in fact, I think even my mate here was like, yep, the boys, hope you're having a good night. And he goes and calls me, basically just takes it too far and calls me retarded. And was just being an absolute yahoo, running around the bar, stealing people's drinks. And mind you, this guy has had
stealing his friend's drink at that.
Stealing his mate's drinks. Being rather lewd. And, look, I don't mind a bit of horseplay. We've all been young. We're still young, right?
Yeah.
The horseplay is all right. But this is in the middle of one of the nicest suburbs in the country. Well, this is in the middle of Whoop Whoop, I've had my birthday party. I've had birthday parties there. All of this idea that just because you're wearing a suit and you've been properly educated, that it somehow inoculates you from ever behaving like that. No, it's in all stratas of society. I think our egalitarianism, the egalitarianism that we tell ourselves, is sometimes so toxic because it just gives people a pass to act like they haven't been brought up well. And I saw that. I think we all saw that on Wednesday night. You got any other comments, mate?
I think, no, I sort of agree on the egalitarian thing, but I think I would feel like that usually works the way around. Like they might go, if you're criticizing, just say, a working class person being a dick to you, some people would go, oh, you're being classist. I think in this case, it's just, to be fair, because what Sassy didn't mention is that it was, it might have been the whole group kind of fooling around, but it was mainly this one guy.
Yeah. Sick of him at the end of the night.
Yeah, because they came up to us afterwards and apologized, and this absolute fucking dickhead was just taken outside, and because he got booted out of the Sheaf, which is one of the main bars in this area that Sass mentions, Double Bay. And it's general. Yeah, so he got kicked out of this bar as well, like one time before. I don't know. I think it's just like a standard like 18-year-old sort of stooge type as well, which I kind of expected. Um, yeah, going by what Mr. Stern said last time as well, with what you saying about Wolf Creek was part of that kind of traveling experience of some foreigners in Australia as well.
Look, all I was saying was this documentary, Hotel Coolgardie, inspired. It was made in 2017,
Mm-hmm.
and it was produced a horror film made last year called The Royal Hotel. But it's like and my friend in the corner there, Sassy, is laughing because we've been to an equally feral pub called the Royal Hotel.
Which is right next to one of our best universities, and it's actually quite a nice pub. Been there for quite a long time, actually. It was built to service railway workers. But yeah, we've got some feral stories from there too.
Yeah, some pretty feral stories from that pub. So they pretty much let anything fly. Except for a bar fight, and then our friend got booted out of it because of that. It was pretty crazy. But when they made the Royal Hotel, I was sending this the trailer to a few friends who'd been to this hotel, and I was like, "What the fuck? They're making a documentary basically about like Australian men and how they're acting around backpacker women." Then I did some backwards research, and I found out it was based on like a real event. And then I saw the documentary pop up on our feed the other night when I was with my mum. I'm like, Mum, we have to watch this. We got to find out what's going on in this documentary. And we sat there and was like watching a train wreck in slow motion. It was
Sounds like our government, mate.
yeah, well, yeah.
But what's the connection with Wolf Creek in this case?
The Wolf Creek connection is basically like typically when you're making a film set in the outback somewhere, there's this way of trying to market to Americans where they will be like, oh, every Australian set horror film, the Australian outback men need to act like some murderers in Wolf Creek or something. So like these Australian men that they made in the horror film are basically just like cartoon character Australian men to try and communicate to American audiences, but it's just really, really badly written.
Oh, really?
Well,
They always used to think that most of the time the stereotype is the Crocodile Dundee look.
well, that's the good guy, but then the bad guy is the Wolf Creek person.
Oh, I see. So you're saying
They're
like,
trying to make the Australians look bad, so they make Wolf Creek. And
so it's kind of like an anti-Crocodile Dundee.
I mean, I'm just looking up this film, and the first few things that come up are the Guardian articles going, shocking portrayal of sexism in this country. So it's quite clear that the Guardian Easter class definitely ate it up because it is something that they love to do, don't they?
Yeah.
Any time to rip on the average pub goer.
Yeah, but look, the doco itself is the one that's enlightening, but this horror film they tried releasing, I think, was overkill. It was an American white woman who created it, and she had to change the characters, which was unnecessary, from like Finnish people to American women, just so like Americans could watch it. But I'm thinking like, if Finland's not exactly like the backwater of some place. It's just they don't speak English as their first language, so they.
Oh, but like a lot of Scandinavian, don't they have a very high level of proficiency with English?
They do, yeah. That's why it's a joke. I don't know why they'd try and make a spin-off film. But look, regardless, I guess I've taken a bit of a segue here. Part of the reason I also wanted to talk about this as well, going off your story, was I've known situations like this actually growing up, being in my early 20s and going to pubs in like Newtown and the inner west. I don't know. There'll always be like this one token like guy from the country, country kid in the big city.
It's either that or a houser.
Yeah.
It's
Wait, I think I've been muted. I don't know what happened.
far.
Sorry, that's better now. Sorry. So basically, what happened was it's always like some token like working class dude in some like group of like uni students or whatever. They bring along. He's doing a tape degree, maybe someone's boyfriend or something like that. and he's like acting like a complete fuckwit, and maybe the girl in the group is someone you've been into and then found some absolute like, train wreck of a bloke, but daddy issues made her want to date him. I don't know, but he just hangs around the group and like acts like a tool, and you don't know why he's there, and all the other girls in the group constantly making like excuses for the bloke. And I don't know, like I've been in a few of these situations where you've been in a group in a drinking circle or something. I don't even know the guy that personally, but he just shows up out of nowhere and he's just some tool. He's hanging out with you. He's probably someone's boyfriend, the girl in the group or something. Or
drinking because they'll just randomly come up to you and be like, "Righto, boys, where are we going tonight?" And it's like, we don't know you. We don't know you. And then there's this sort of, it's even more kind of awkward, if you will, when there's women involved. Because, sometimes, in that sort of typical fashion, they'll sit there and go, you try and sort of explain them away. Or you sit there and ask them, "Hey, how's your night been?" But no. When you try and tell these people no, that's when it becomes a problem.
Oh yeah,
Going back to that thing that happened on Wednesday, that is exactly what happened. They told this 19-year-old, "No, you can't do it." We later learned, actually, he'd been kicked out of that same pub 2 months ago.
Yeah, I gave him a chance as well. Like, I told him, look, we've all been dickheads at that age. Just cool it down a bit, and
Forget about it.
I didn't even, yeah, exactly. Like, I understand, let it go. We all fuck around in the pub and all, but he just went on and on and on. So I'm like, well, you kind of get what you fucking deserve at that point. But are we talking about the standard essays, which I'll talk about later, or
it's just a sort of
the country goer?
Every culture has a way of being drunk.
No, but I thought we were talking about country goers, so people from the
Not
country.
just country, but it's also tradies. It's also in the city we have the same problem, and I think even Homer might, we've all been out. There's a very particular way some people basically express being drunk. It's this sort of, I think that I could talk to anybody, and it comes across really badly.
I do you have much to say about that?
Honestly, if I was out among drunks, in my young years, I probably would have been drunk as well, so I actually don't remember.
That's my boy. That's 100% integration right there.
I actually don't remember at all.
That is 100% integration. I think basically our immigration test is, here's this beer, except if you're from Lakemba, here's this beer, have a good time. And if you don't, well, go home. But yeah, no, Homer's like, he's definitely integrated. Haven't you, mate?
I guess, yeah. Yes. I think with integration, it's like the locals want everyone to integrate, and then the people who are coming, like, they want to retain some sort of like sense of home. So it's like it's that battle, but also like it's, especially if you come from like a third world country or like second world country, it's like you have customs that are like not the same as like in a developed country. Like some things are okay to do, like driving habits, for example. Like you might be okay to like drive wherever because in your country it's fine. But then like you go to a first world country and it's like, oh, it's like different, but you don't know, like, because it's already been ingrained in you. So it's like that kind of stuff. Yeah, but I don't know, like what, like when people ask like, okay, we need people to integrate, it's like,
what are they looking for?
Yeah, what are they looking for,
Well, obviously, let's start with the most obvious one. Are you, at any point in time, do you have any, it's ironic for a country that used to be a penal colony, but we don't want anyone that has criminal proclivities. Right, first one.
Right.
That's fair to say. I think that's fair to say across the Western world. The reason we have nice countries is because you can't just do what you want. We have freedom, but we have also a set of rules.
There's already a class of people that dominate, and then there's like 2 or 3 mobs that run the joint, and they don't want to add more mobs to the mix. That's probably the logic I'm thinking.
So there's that.
But to be fair, that's like immigration in any country.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, you need to abide by the local laws.
Yeah.
I suppose, like, with a lot of, like, developed countries, they have more immigrants, which is why it's more of an issue. Whereas, like, you have places like China, like, there's not as many immigrants from other places, even though it is quite developed. So it's like, it's like, what... I guess there's also like cultural impact parts of immigration. Like, for the Asian community, it's like, how whitewashed are you? You know, like, are you like full bogan? Like, I go to the pub every weekend, I go drink with my mates, I look at the footy. Like, is that your level of integration? Like, are you that whitewashed as to like not have any association with the like?
Yeah,
like,
you're a banana.
Yeah, are you banana? Like, do you not even speak Chinese or like your like Asian language, right? Or do you have like no relationship with your parents, like on that level? It's like, how whitewashed are you? And I suppose like the longer you're, I guess, away from your, I guess, country of origin, then the more whitewashed you are. But yeah, there's different levels. There's different levels to it. It's like, I don't know, it's like a cake.
Such thing as an egg, because I always thought that'd be the opposite way around of a banana. You know, a white person who's Asian on the inside.
White versus Asian. Oh, that's a weirdo.
No, Russian.
Maybe, but they're not the weeaboos though. Let's face it, like a whitewashed Asian. You wouldn't guess that it's not like really, well, maybe there are, but it's not like you'd see a Chinese person going, "G'day, mate," or something like that. But a weeaboo is exactly like the cringy version of that. You know, Josh Desu or something.
Yeah.
Josh Desu.
We do have a lot, like from a CBD sort of perspective, and Homer has probably definitely been all here of them. We have this like phenomenon, and I go around the sort of Chinatown, Koreatown area, and you go, far out, there are a lot of just karaoke bars which are, you can just tell, like, nothing is in English. No, not a single...
My old Korean girlfriend used to take me to those things.
Not a single white person except for the landlord has stepped in this building, you know, like, and I just sort of go, look, I get people need to have their own space, but... You know, it only kind of works if it's like a little Chinatown, a little section of a street, right? When it comes to integration, it's when you start pushing into politics, it's when you start saying, no, I want to enforce my culture on the host. That's when people have a problem.
Sure.
And I think that's where, I think a lot of the Asian backlash, right, back in the day, we look back on it now and go, yeah, they were just running a grocery store. You know what I mean? They're just sending their kids to school. Why do you have a problem? Now, don't get me wrong, there were problems like the Cabramatta 1990s Vietnam, like the drug trade. Yeah. And there was still the same issue. We have this massive issue today, I think we can all agree, of a certain class of the media class, political class, whose entire like sense of worth is not ever being called racist or offensive. So they kind of just look the other way when it comes to crime.
Oh, yeah, no, that's true.
And it's just like, well, no. No, actually, guys, heroin is... And if it just so happens that we have a certain ethnic group that was peddling that at the time, and no one's ignoring it, you're going to get certain responses. And we have a very, and I mean very famous politician in Australia who started her career off the back of that purely because no one wanted to speak about it.
Oh, Hanson.
Pauline, love. I've met a great, you know, very, very hospitable, personable woman. But I can understand. I'm looking at an Asian guy saying this, going, okay, how do I also not sit there and advertise for One Nation? But like, I understand entirely why people have voted for this woman for 30 years, because to a certain extent, there's this just absolute fear among Anglos and white people of don't be racist, don't be racist, don't be. I don't have that issue, but you know, then again, I'm just.
I think disability is their own race.
It's funny. How can one be part of a race if you can't run a race in the first place?
Well, yeah. For a bit of reference, Sassy has cerebral palsy.
I think though, like working in immigration, I do have to pull in here though. In my opinion, it's yet another bloody political debate though that's too polarized on either end. Like, okay, obviously Sassy has his own views. I think Hanson though is pretty much a grifter and opportunist, because before it was Asians and then it was Aboriginals, I believe, and then it's Muslims.
Aboriginals have always been. That's a different kettle of fish.
Yeah, I know, but
We should have an entirely different podcast.
I know, but she's focusing on different groups each time.
Yeah.
You got to admit. Yeah, that's not very consistent, or like in
There
the.
are different issues out there. Like,
Well, they're always going after the next possible target.
Yeah, exactly, but she doesn't go after Asians now. Her entire thing is pretty much on Muslims now.
It's funny, I got invited to one of them, and I looked at someone I know who had recently joined, and I look at who's running the branches.
Yeah.
And it's a local Chinese woman running a One Nation branch, and I just went, fuck, that's something I should have written down in the comedy script. Now it's real life. Like, what's going on?
It's just hypocritical though. But I always thought like.
In my Chinese grocery store. That's what your party is now.
It's basically, it reminds me of a famous,
What?
a famous section, if anyone knows, a famous news story, if anyone knows about it. There was an old dude in Melbourne, like,
Get out of my store.
there's an old Chinese dude, and he put on his, on the outside of his grocery store, no dogs, no blacks. Because a lot of South Sudanese people, teenagers were breaking into his store and stealing his shit. So he said, no dogs, no blacks, and he got in trouble with
The
it.
only difference is, if it was the 19th century, though, it would have been no dogs, no blacks, no Irish, no me.
No me.
No me, because if he's Asian, right,
Well, yeah, I
wouldn't have been let into his own, have his own store.
No, but like I was saying before, though, with the August 29th protest, that was the whole issue. Because I'm like, I obviously understand that we do need to look at, our immigration, or because,
Yeah, you got to keep balance.
Yeah, you got to keep balance. Yes, that's the exact point. But no one looks at the bloody balance. The August 29th protests are just full of people like Blair Cottrell, far rightists, and all that sort of shit. Or even if they're, not everyone's like that. But
Sizable.
aside from that, but even Bob Catter, I saw photos of him.
He's got a face, by the way.
Yeah, but he was threatening to punch someone for saying that. Yeah, and he's doing that in front. He took some photos in front of Thomas Sowell and those Nazi types. They just don't care. And
Thomas from South Africa.
yeah, no, but my point is though. No, hang on. My point is though is that no one ever looks at this with, sober eyes. There's
When have I
Sassy.
been sober, though?
No, yeah. When Sassy said about that some sides don't look at the issues at all that might permeate certain, not even just sometimes white groups as well, of course, but certain immigrant groups. A lot of these, like usually left-wing parties, also turn a blind eye to it. They're just as bad.
They turn a blind eye for a different reason. They turn.
It's not a shit reason, both shit.
No, shit. Well, of course you're going to feel like, yeah, no, that's my country. I feel entitled to have it look like people like me. And
Well, I don't know. No, you need a bit more of a justification than that.
Crazy. There's been a video that I've been sending to people. There's like two big ones at the moment. One that I know was made by like a British YouTuber who basically just makes these clickbait videos, and it's why Australia's turning on immigration. And then the second one I've been sending people is called The Great Australian Migration Scam, and it's made by an ex-Muslim, I think he's like a Middle Eastern or like Indian background or something. And he's called the Cyberpunk Dingo. And he detailed all the different facets of the immigration system which get exploited. I mean, my last girlfriend, I think, was on one of these kind of systems. So, you know, the Department of Home Affairs basically just broke my heart. And I was a bit of a hypocrite here because I found out I was dating a girl who was on a bit of a migration sort of grey area. And they cracked down on her like a ton of bricks. And, you know, the breakup was pretty hard. But where I'm going with this, basically, is one of the key points these videos point out is that our population's like 27 million, and we still have infrastructure that's set from like 20 years ago when we had like
when we had 18 million.
We had about 24 million, so we have like 2 million or 3 million more people than like the amount of houses, amount of hospitals, amount of universities, rail lines can usually take, you know, everything like that. It's a general sort of like estimate by some experts. And like I'm as an engineer, I want to try and roll these things out. Same with my friend Homer. He's an engineer too. He's worked in industry with like, you know, that project management sector and that sort of stuff, rolling these things out and watching these things go, because you can make a lot of, that's where like a lot of money is in Australia, is like this construction and development and that sort of thing. But one of the big issues is that we need things that can like boost that, rather than like, we don't need more people working in cafes. We don't need more people working in just bars. I mean, we love our bars, we love our cafes, but like if we have tradies, that's what we need, because that's building more things, like houses and stuff where people can go and that sort of deal. But then we're left in this situation where, like, you know, I guess a lot of the visas go towards people who are working in areas that are already built up, and are trying to take more and more people, to the point like a suburb like Wolli Creek is like geologically sinking into the earth from all the amount of buildings there are. It's this little like peninsula built on a bog nearby the Cooks River, named after Captain Cook. And like geologically speaking, a lot of engineers have to like, you know, worry about the risk of the entire suburb slipping into the river because it's got all these skyscrapers there. It's turned into a joke. Like it's like where people are worried about like this boggy sort of like marshy soil, and then there's like, you know, skyscrapers just sitting there. You know, it's just like sinking slowly. But people don't know that that's the case, but like that's actually the case. If you look into it or you hear about it, you know, you think, you know, it sounds believable enough, and I'd imagine it's the case too. But I've read about it, you know, heard about it from people. It's one of these things you think, just shit. We need to get some people actually building things up to fix this stuff, but we get just more and more bartenders and, you know, more and more people working as like coffee shop workers or whatever the heck, and that's not what we need. And what's even worse is when you get all these people, as the videos point out, they repatriate their parents who are usually retired and, you know, need like maybe get on the disability support, you know, might get like interpreters, that sort of thing. And like what's that doing is we need people who work and like pay into the systems, because we have more retirees now and more people working. I don't know. I'm just mouthing off here. My opinions are obviously like, you know, highly contestable, and they're just based on my momentary thoughts right now. Hey, Homer, what would you think about it?
So, this is a question about skilled immigration, correct?
Yeah.
Skilled immigration. Oh, man. I think a lot of the tradies I've seen are actually from overseas, like from European countries, like that I've met. And like France, for example, they don't make as much money in France, but they come here and they make a lot more money as a tradie. Yeah, I think that's all I know. Like, I don't know that much about it, to be honest. All I see is like you have, I guess you have like a bunch of Uber Eats people from Asia, who I guess are like less skilled, but yeah, like I don't know too much about the issues, to be honest.
That's all right. Like,
well, look, I mean, we can all celebrate the fact that Menulog, one of the many delivery services we have here, is shutting down.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, thank goodness. Because
yeah, it's good.
We've literally had of certain type of immigration, which is the South Asian food courier, has been these food delivery, gig economy companies who benefit disproportionately from non-unionised cheap labour.
Yeah, it was.
because they can gig economy.
Yeah, the gig
workers
economy
can be used
was
a
pretty
lot more.
bad. Like,
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
like, I'm glad that some of these like services are sort of thinning out. I know for like when you're at uni and you're looking for a second job, it's great. But what my good criticism was, and I'm willing to have it challenged right now, is, well, look how the roads have been going. I was working in hospitality, and we ran an Uber Eats out of our restaurant, and like all these Uber Eats drivers taking deliveries that from our restaurant would just come in and just with a bike helmet on, with their like cooler on their back, and just like be taking at least like 2-3 people's space where they were standing. And everyone like in the line waiting to enter the restaurant just to stand behind him, and it was just like you look at him and you're like, what the heck is going on? It all just seemed a little bit disruptive, and I don't know.
And how are their English skills? It's basically they have enough English to go Uber for what? I've seen this actually in McDonald's, in Thai restaurants, in a whole bunch where they will just shove a phone in the face of some poor worker. And it's like, right, so which order is it? And then I'm pointing, if you're listening to this, and they'll just point to the phone, Uber for, And it's like, this cannot be sustainable because they cannot they can't even communicate in a sentence, this order is for Jane Doe.
Yeah, I don't know.
No wonder, when you see that, no wonder people have an issue.
Yeah, I guess regardless of like just like their individual backgrounds too, if you're just dealing with these Uber drivers, I mean, I guess the communication comes into it too. I don't know what the heck it is, but it just becomes stressful when there's multiple layers of communication that get lost. And then there's also just the extra stress of sometimes I've ordered Uber Eats and stuff like that, and shit's just gone missing. It's just ridiculous.
They look at you like, sir, this is the thing. I'm not doing this to make fun of it. I once had an Uber Eats order. I think it was like a year and a half ago, 18 months. It was summer. I do remember that. So it was 2 years ago, maybe, or a year. And the guy has I think it was McDonald's. I was watching some sporting event overseas. I see him in his delivery car. And I'm outside my house. I can see him. He takes one look at me, goes round the block, up the hill, and then it says on my phone, this order was cancelled.
What?
And he ran off with about, I'd say, $60 worth of food, because I'm going to just put it out there for the world, at this present moment and for a while, I'm a big chungus, right? I do like to eat.
Hold on, so he just saw you
and looked at the food, didn't bother to get out of his car, and went, yep, stole it.
Did you complain?
What the fuck?
Well, I complained, and what do I get back? We are very sorry for your... Like, from an AI chatbot, by the way, because, you know what, everything's been bloody well outsourced. It's not even just to brown people, it's to computers, who are serviced by what? More brown people. It's just, you get, don't worry, we'll give you a refund in Uber credits. And it's like, but they don't want to address the structural issue of, how about a little bit of vetting for your couriers? How about, that's a really bad experience. Here's some 30% off vouchers for restaurants in my local area. Yeah, that's great. What? You haven't answered the question of, are these idiots going to steal my stuff again?
Yeah.
I think the main issue with that, though, is a lot of locals don't want to work in these areas either. And
sure, and it made me think about this sort of thing.
How do you get the people into the businesses? Because a lot of people do.
I think we need to start going back to face-to-face restaurants.
But people don't want that. They want the convenience.
Yeah, they want the convenience. And may I just say, we are paying dearly for it. The amount of money, I don't know about you, Jish and Fish, but you look at an average Uber Eats order.
I literally haven't ordered them in about 2 years because they're always late or they're soggy or
they're late, they're soggy, but they're expensive, aren't they? You look,
because the delivery.
You tabulate the service fee, the delivery fee, the fee for scratching is bollocks. It's just fees on top of fees on top of fees.
It looks like they've sat on the burger when you get it as well.
Yeah,
but I mean,
I would have thought there's a lot of Indians, and you get a beef burger. Wouldn't they have an aversion to touching the food?
But they don't. But yeah, what do you expect though when a lot of people want this convenience? I don't know why either. I never use.
Yeah, I mean,
Uber
look,
Eats.
if you're regularly getting stuff from Uber Eats and Deliveroo, we used to deliver these food delivery companies, you are actually supporting this unsustainable immigration.
Probably yes.
Because I mean, I had a mate of mine. I won't say his name, but he's a lawyer, and he goes, "White people, after the March for Australia protest, who do you think is going to order and deliver your fucking Uber Eats? If immigrants stopped for one day, you people would have to get off your fat ass." I'm like, yeah, well, that's the problem. I think we need to start moving our asses a little bit and go back to the normal restaurants and go back to the way things were. Until 2017, if you wanted food delivered, where'd you go? The local Chinese or the local pizzeria, which would, deliver in 15 minutes, and you had to be in the local area. So what happens? You support your local community, and those shops had probably been there for 50 or 60 years.
I think that's a sort of fair argument outside of the immigration debate as well. It's just about, like you said, supporting your local industry, and also about, socializing, I guess, exercise instead of more stuff sitting around.
Stop eating. Yeah, okay, cool, fair enough. I never got the memo.
No, I didn't say that. I said walk to the place.
You ableist, you.
Well, alright, in your case, I don't know, drive there even. I don't know.
But that's what those people are for. Maybe we can just get them to do driving stuff.
Yeah, I was thinking of maybe changing the topic a little bit too, so it doesn't stack on the same thing for another 20 minutes. So
how dare you? I'm being funny.
And it's good. It's good. No, I enjoy it. But I thought I'd just switch it over a little bit about high school experiences growing up here and stuff. Because the thing is too, just segue it a bit and have some reason that we've changed it too. Well, look, Australia's changed faster in the last 10, 15 years than I'd say arguably in the last 40. It's just the last 20, 15 years. Even for my friend Homer's sort of generation coming here, his parents' generation come in the 90s. My grandparents came in the 40s, so they'd probably been here a little while. But a lot of recent sort of immigrants who came only 80s and 90s. We've both got, we all know an Indian fella who's an Australian, but he's I called him Oscar for Ottakash on my blog once. And I won't say his actual name, but he's a Sikh friend, and he's got probably some of the craziest sort of xenophobic opinions about other immigrants, just because he's just and I'm that's a bit hardcore sometimes. And he goes to me, well, look, I came here. My parents came here when there was 2 or 3 Indians only. Everyone else was just some bogan. We were a big fish in a small pond. But now there's just only a few white boomers left, and everyone else is Indian. And I'm just kind of sick of the fact they can just waltz on in and don't need to adapt like my parents did, and I don't make any effort. And I'm look, that's a fair call. I know some of your opinions are a bit harsh about other Indians and stuff, but not gonna lie, that is a fair take. But that's just my own opinion. I'll pass it on to Homer because I feel like I've been prattling on for a little while. We'll talk about kind of growing up in high school and sort of I guess this. I wrote an article on the selective school system. I think I sent a few people, which is very interesting. And I didn't go through selective school, but Homer went through a selective school. I went through private school, which is kind of different. You got to pay for that shit, and it sometimes feels it sometimes feels for this, especially a creative school, me, Fish, and Sassy all went to the same school. So one of these creative sort of drama schools,
It was
language,
gay
music.
before it was cool.
Yeah, gay before it was cool sort of deal. You pay for it, and then, like, you know, a couple students end up on the top ranks, and then everyone else just sinks it. We had a few people who were like these creative theatre kids who came out with mystery marks because, you know, their parents paid for them to go to school to get like a top level education. They probably couldn't even qualify for a university end because, I don't know, they didn't get their ADHD treated or something. I don't know. But I'll pass it on to home.
Sure, mate. Yeah, I went to a selective school, 4th Street, in Petersham. It's like the Inner West. Inner West is very, it's like one of those LGBT, ABCD kind of suburbs.
HDMI, LG, HDTV, barbecue.
HTTV, bro, HTTP,
Okay.
all of them, you know?
Yeah.
And
All the genders.
yeah, like, my school was predominantly, like, a very public school. Like, it's just, everyone there, like, had to do a test to get in, right? And we come, like, because it's selective, you get more people outside, like, the local area. So, at the time, when I first started at the school, I lived in Quakers Hill, which is, like, yeah, like, beyond Blacktown, like, proper West. I don't know if you guys, like, grew up, like, West, but it's, like, at that time, you just had, like, it wasn't as diverse. It was, like, maybe a few Asians, but it was predominantly, like lower class, like, white people. Semi-bogans.
4X Goldbergers.
4X Goldbergans.
So
Yes.
they're
All the
bogan,
tradies.
but they're bogan, but not really? How does that work?
Yeah, they're like...
Is it like Penrith area, that far west kind of thing?
Yeah, almost.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I suppose...
To be honest, like, far west for us is anything, you know, sort of 5 kilometres west of the CBD, and then we're going, no.
we can argue where the west-east line
We're talking about the Red
is
Rooster
in
line.
Sydney.
No,
Big
it's
up the
further
rivers.
west than that. That's.
It's well into the Red Rooster line. Like,
No, I know that.
yeah.
I think on average, let's be fair, like to be impartial, Parramatta is probably the start of the west.
Well, yeah, haven't they said that
West.
now the centre of Sydney is Bankstown or Blacktown?
You're kidding. Blacktown.
Yeah, no, they're now saying it used to be obviously CBD.
Oh,
Then
population
it was Parramatta, and now it's Bankstown or Blacktown or some shit.
Well, the population centre.
No, as in where they say that the CB, like the centre of Sydney.
What do you mean? What does that mean?
I don't know, but I
Oh, like population distribution?
Yeah, population. That's not in Blacktown. That's still close to the Parramatta.
That'd be Parramatta for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you see, that tells our listeners how much of a bubble I've been living in.
But you're right, Sassy. It has been moving more west over time. Like back in the day, Blacktown would have been like, I guess, like Mountain Druitt is now.
Well, Mount Druitt or Greenacre. I mean, I've seen, you see some of these suburbs. Apparently, it's like 2.5 hours on the train to get into the CBD,
Yeah.
and it's still considered Greater Sydney. At this point, like, can we just like incorporate the Central Coast? Can we just like do a special military operation, Russia style, and just incorporate all of our coasty brethren into one Great Sydney, right?
I'm in the volunteer fire brigade, and my mum's based down in like Wollongong, which is basically like Sydney Junior, just south of Sydney, and it's considered another city. But the fire brigade, where it's serving, is still considered Greater Sydney. So we'll fight fires up in the Blue Mountains, which is also considered Greater Sydney, and then they'll fight things in the Central Coast, which is also considered Greater Sydney to an extent. But it gets a bit ridiculous what's considered Greater Sydney, like the Blue Mountains. Like, the Blue Mountains is mountains. Like, that's meant to be separating Sydney from, like, the country. But for Fire Brigade, we respond to fires in what they call, quote-unquote, Greater Sydney. So I don't know what's going on here.
Yeah, I will say, going from, like, a west suburb, like Blacktown, to like an inner west suburb, it's a bit of a culture shock, really. Out west is like nothing to do. Like, I think a defining feature of being in Western Sydney is that underneath, like in an underlying way, you just want to get out of Western Sydney.
I've been out there. There are bits of it which are really quite nice. You look at the houses.
Yeah, these
modern
days.
McMansions.
These days, right? But like 10 years ago, 5 years ago, like there was not that much out there.
Gentrification works. Got it.
Yeah, gentrification works for sure. Yeah, I bet nowadays like Para is obviously quite a nice destination, but yeah, back in the day it was like everyone wants to get out of Western Sydney.
Yeah, so even Parramatta 10 years ago was, in other words, considered a bit of a shithole to people there.
I think 10 years ago is like when Para started like getting nicer.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, it's always said Westfield, but before then it was like, oh, there's another stabbing Parramatta Westfield.
I remember going there like almost in the Olympic year, like when I was a little kid, about 20 years ago. I know that'd be almost 25 years ago now. Yeah. My dad used to, I think my dad or near there, used to work up there, and I went there. I didn't know it was that stabby per se. I did remember it was kind of parochial. Like, okay, they had some tower blocks, but there'd be like the highest one would be the Park Royal there, which is about 10 stories at most, but that's about it. And it was actually very white. It was like white and bogan, and largely bogan at least. And now it's like, no, definitely a melting pot now, very different. Consider the second CBD. There's a new tower block, quite extensive as well, even for CBD. The first CBD standards are quite extensive. The amount of development is impressive.
Yeah, Para is actually very nice. So
yeah.
I was gonna say as well, just going off what Homer's saying and Fish and Dish is going on about. They say depending on where you want to buy an apartment, we're talking now like property ownership here, because you need to jump into this pyramid scheme we call the property market. And look, there's still some great units you can buy in like the inner west, Marrickville, where I was living before, or like Petersham, that area that's not too far from the city. But people try to think, oh, well, I want a 1 or 2 bedroom house or a unit and buy some new fancy place for under $1 million. So they go for some space out like Parramatta or Liverpool, or like out in Blacktown, one of these new developments. And look, I'm not a financial advisor. I'm an engineer who works seeing these kinds of projects. And the typical sort of advice, unofficially, that people will say is older units are usually quite more robust. And then these new units that you get these really dodgy contractors, especially out like Southwest, which will like be built stuff like
fruits of immigration.
Yeah, well, built stuff between the 90s and the 2000s with like combustible cladding, with the stuff that like set Grenfell Tower on fire, and the stuff. There's just basically the outside stuff, the shiny like metal bits of outside like apartment buildings, which have aluminium on the outside, sort of polyethylene plastic, which is the same stuff, which is made out of like wheelie bins, plastic lunch boxes, like not like takeaway packaging, but it's like the high density polyethylene. But you got the polyethylene, the plastic in the middle, and then just another sheet of aluminium. But what happens is when the things like, or the fire's going up, it'll just like shoot up the side of the building because it's plastic, so it's a petroleum substance. It's just like a solid petroleum, and it'll just shoot up like a chimney. And then what will also happen is once it gets hot enough, and then enough plastic drops into like like a corner junction where like the aluminium cladding wraps around the building at a 90-degree angle, it'll all pull together and then suddenly just explode in like a vent. And then suddenly you got molten aluminium just shooting off the side of a building like a meteorite shower. And it's just, I don't know, they just build with this stuff still continuously, but like to a less degree. It's like still highly regulated. They've banned a lot of stuff, and there's now when you buy like an apartment which is newer, you're going to be expecting at least another $20,000, $30,000 or something like that in strata fees, because the strata company is going to ask you as a landlord to cough up a bunch of money to replace the cladding that was from like the old building, so to comply with new regulations. So there's also a bit of a landmine to navigate if you don't know this property market very well. And we're getting all these buyers just to, the real estate agents are just, it's just culpable in this situation that, as anyone else. And they're just trying to sell anyone. They're like, unlicensed financial advisors telling everyone that the time to buy is now.
But like, if they were financial advisors, they'd be like deregistered in a second for telling people that. Like, they'd be telling everyone, you talk to a national financial advisor, and they have to like protect their own license by them telling you this is not financial advice, this is general advice, and anything that I say about this is to be taken with a grain of salt or something like that, whatever they say beforehand, so they can like cover the tracks and like clear any kind of liability they might have. For some reason, real estate agents are cowboys and they don't think they're covered by the same sorts of obligations, and so they just tell you to buy now. And it could have mold in the ceiling, there could have been a burst water main, it could have had the combustible cladding on the side of the building. They're not going to tell you how much extra it's going to cost. They're just telling you it might go up. But they just want to make this quick sale. And like there's a lot to navigate here. And sometimes it's even worth like just not buying in a certain area until you can find a safer place. That's my own unsolicited opinion. But it's one of these things, like sometimes renting and maybe having some stocks or something like that would be like more sustainable than owning a place that's going to cost you an arm and a leg after as soon as you buy it.
Are real estate agents being outright illegal with that, or are they actually, finding loopholes in the regulation?
They're working in the grey zones. So
right.
I was dealing with a really shitty real estate agent when I was leaving my last place. You guys might know the story. I was leaving a place in Marrickville and I was moving to Burwood. And this real estate agency, which had been bought out by a bigger place, he's a typical sort of like mobster, gangster, sort of like cowboy sort of real estate agent. Last name
You don't need to
McCree.
say all that, just say real estate agent.
Well, it's real estate agent. Well, yeah, it is the base word, and everyone says the same thing. But this dude, as soon as I left, my old housemate decided he was originally on the plans that he was going to take over the place, and then he decides last minute that he didn't want to take over the place. And the real estate agent said, well, originally they accepted my notice to leave, and then suddenly they said I owed all this rent. I'm like, no, mate, I gave you notice like 3 weeks ago as legally compliant, and I've given you in the keys. I'm not going to pay you extra rent. And he's like, no, you got to pay the extra rent. I'm like, mate, I'm just going to withdraw my bond from the government. You can't get the bond anymore. I'm submitting a withdrawal application, because it's when you have a bond when you're renting in this country, it's held by like the government, and then once you leave the place, once they do an inspection, they can issue it back to you, or you can ask to withdraw it if they haven't complied with anything. Now I just applied to withdraw it. Long story short, they were trying to do anything they could to try and intimidate me and say that they were going to like legally threaten me and all this other bullshit. And I eventually, like, my old housemate left the place a mess. So like, I was scared that they were going to like, try and like take me to court or whatever over the messy place or whatever. And like they said to me, oh, we'll give you bond back, but you got to pay this inflated cleaning cost, which was like $600 to clean the place and like, just give it a mop and like, throw out some garbage or something. But I was just scared at the time, and my old housemate was just being a dick, and he wasn't communicating with me. So I just thought, look, I'll pay the fee, and I'll just like split it 50-50. That was even nicer to do that. I could have just charged the entire fee to my old housemate and just not given him his half of the bond back. But I was a nice guy about it. And I don't know. I just feel like there's, like legally speaking, when I got legal consolation about the whole thing, all the lawyers were pretty much on my side. I tried reporting the guy to fair trading, but the fair trading person said, look, if it was actually still active, the case, we probably could have done something. Or if you went to the tribunal and then like had a ruling in your favor with the evidence you had, which you probably might have been able to win, then we could have prosecuted him on the basis of that. But based on what powers we have as a regulator, we couldn't do anything. Like, I don't know, like they know that certain regulators have their hands tied and there's certain areas that can get away with. And there's all these loopholes that some of these experienced real estate agents know. And so they end up just like exploiting the fact that certain enforcers of the law will have their hands tied in certain situations and just won't want to do anything. So like, unless you also are playing the game too,
they know a million ways to try and fuck you over, and you got to play the game back. But you still have a lot of rights, like as a renter. But a lot of the time, especially if you're like an immigrant or something, you wouldn't know it.
I think you're too nice, Mrs. Stern, because you're too nice, Mr. Stern, because I know someone else who was involved with that, like the cleaning thing. They tried to get him in on some bullshit about the miscolored walls or something because of the way they colored it was a bit weird or something. So it was some weird thing like that. They tried to color it again, but they tried to blame him for the miscoloring of the walls. It was something really weird like that. But he was essentially like, no, fuck that and all that sort of stuff. I do get what you mean with this. Like, again, in this sort of, immigration circle kind of thing, when you look in all the regulations and stuff, you can see, like any of these regulatory games, you can see what they're sort of trying to play. Like, you always have to play, like, tennis of these types and all that sort of stuff. Like, they're going to try to find some sneaky way around it, so you got to find another sneaky way around. I think the key is like, just go in with the flow.
It's all gets pretty ridiculous. I personally think that you're just going back and forth with this garbage. Well, so yeah, some of my friends are going on break. I can just just give me a second. You have been listening to the Contemplation deck. We have hit a technical difficulty and are in a slight intermission period. Please sit back and enjoy 10 seconds of perfectly curated music. Okay, welcome back to the Contemplation deck. We had a little intermission, which is probably suitable for this little podcast. Now,
because a certain idiot didn't realise that he had a lightning cable in his left pocket.
Okay, this is definitely getting edited out.
Yeah, it's getting edited out. Yeah. So anyway,
Let's go.
No. Well, okay. Anyway, so what we were talking about before this break was real estate agents and the pyramid scheme, which is Sydney. And I think we were talking a little bit about Western Sydney and how disjointed the place was and how populated it is, that sort of deal. But I'll let Homer pick up from it because he had something to say. So let's just go from him.
I had a question that was a bit separate from that, which was to ask you about you guys went to the same high schools, right?
Yep. God, it was fucking gay.
So you mentioned it was a gay high school, but what is?
So what I mean by that is this. So
Homer was going to ask the question.
Yeah, I was going to ask the question, right? I understand that gay is not necessarily like everyone is like homosexual, but it's like it's more inclusive, right? One of those.
Well, it's funny how inclusion works. To include everybody, you have to exclude people. So that's a very Karl Popper thing. The paradox of tolerance is that you get rid of intolerant ideas. So in other words, at that school, apart from a couple of teachers, which were all in the history department, which was basically the sanity department, you had one Greek fella who just wouldn't put up with any sort of BS.
Even though he was full of BS himself.
Yeah, no, right? You had a teacher who was also a kid's author, who was really great. And I remember in a class, he gave us a 16th century flintlock pistol and said, this is used in the English Civil War. And by the way, there was only 2 girls in the class out of 28 boys, and you're 14, and you're going, yes, there's a gun in school. Legend. And then the other bloke, who's, I think, one of my, like if there was ever, people to model your personality off or life off, role models, is that the term? It's the teacher that I had for modern history, who was also my tutor. from the age of 13 to 18, like homeroom type of thing.
Oh, okay.
They were the only sort of sane ones. And the rest of them kind of just fell in line into this. All of the progressive stuff you see now was being tried 10 or 15 years ago at our school.
Damn.
We had a Wear It Purple Day the last year of our school. We used to have a thing called International Day, right? And you used to have the flags of all the different countries, Germany, Japan, Italy. Oh my God, I just sat there and did the Axis powers without his voice. But they were things at our school. They were languages that were part of our thing, our curriculum. And we had all of that. Eventually, they had a giant LGBT flag and a United Nations flag. They got rid of.
I think that's actually illegal, ironically.
No, and they got rid of the Australian. They got rid of the Australian flag. So you're meant to have all the flags of the world. You have the Torres Strait Islander, the gay flag, Aboriginal flag, all these other national flags. But Lord forbid.
Did they end up getting rid of the Australian flag?
You actually have the flag of the country that you're in.
What, did they get rid of the Australian flag?
What? Yeah, they got rid of it for International Day.
Mm. Did they give a statement for that?
No, they just did it very quietly.
Oh,
and that's the insidiousness of it.
Yeah.
The other thing that's insidious, a good mate of ours came out the closet. The least gay guy you'll ever meet. Not campy. He ain't the only thing he's marching to is the bloody mini fridge while he's gaming, right? That's what he's doing. He's not marching in no bloody parade, right? So, he comes in and this teacher who's part of the English department goes, well, now that you've come out of the closet, here's an LGBT HDTV HDMI film festival. Right? Here's a thing for gay teens, and he goes, I'm not into that. That's my sexuality. I'm not going to make it part of my personality. Which, props to him, I think we can all agree. That is a very principled move. Because I think that's why people don't like that community. Certain aspect, it's my whole personality, right? But all of that progressive virtue signaling was drummed into us. Even further back, we had to watch a film about the stolen generation in year 3, so 9 years old. And we got asked every day, are we sorry?
Really?
Yes. Are we sorry?
You sorry?
Am I sorry? Okay. Am I sorry?
Yeah, it's Nick.
The whole group. Oh, yeah, I did it all. Sorry, guys. I just inflicted a mass displacement program because I was feeling off, and I also inadvertently discovered time travel.
Well,
typical sassy.
Yeah, typical.
Well, to get to the main part of my question, which is how large of a proportion of your school was immigrants
No, that's the funny thing. It wasn't. The Asian fellas. They just kept their head down, worked mad.
Yeah, there was like 2 or 3 Asians in the whole grade.
Yeah,
really?
Great.
Yeah,
great
so we had maybe 2 Japanese people, 2 Chinese people, and 1 Indian guy. Okay. And then we also had a Lebanese girl, but then she acted white.
The phyllo pastry.
Yeah,
Well, you guys are partially immigrant.
Parents,
yeah.
Right?
Yeah, but we're white, so it's different and better.
Well, we had a Turkish girl too.
That was a joke. If you're listening, that was a joke.
No, but he's.
So, I guess what would you consider how many percent is white immigrant versus non-white immigrant?
Well, I'd say maybe 10% or 12.5% was a non-European sort of background, and that's including Turkish people as well.
Oh yeah.
There was a Turkish girl and a.
You made a lot of Greeks mad by saying.
We had Greeks, but
I think you need to say cockroaches. There were cockroaches.
Jesus, yeah. Well, looking about that's the Greeks view Erdogan and that kind of thing.
Yeah,
but no. But we had some Turk. We had some Turks. But it was maybe nothing more than 12.5% of the grade.
Question: the majority of the people that enforced this sort of very progressive ideology were just guilty white people.
Sure.
It's always the guilty white people have this guilt about, most of the time they didn't have ancestors that were directly, in government, right? During stolen generation, during, whatever.
Yeah.
During the quote-unquote evil, fascistic, supposedly bad times. Yeah. But they somehow feel guilty for it.
It's another personality thing. It's like... Yeah. Like how people identify being like depressed or something. It's like I identify
if you stew in your
guilty.
If you feel guilty all the time about issues and you say that you're depressed, if I say it's like this sort of
I feel like it's like, white people who grow up in these kinds of environments are basically as white as the blank canvas they feel they are. And they need to color themselves with different culture by identifying with a mental illness like being depressed.
Yep. Or trans, or whatever.
Well,
we had a Wear a Purple Day as well, as an inner westy school.
It's inner west, though. That makes sense.
Inner west, Wear a Purple.
That's the belly. That is the belly of the beast, though.
Like, it is. Our school is like known for like music and arts.
Yes, I was out.
The principal would funnel like all the sports money and like the science money into like buying some like a $20,000 cello or some shit.
That's what I hated as well. It's because I'd like to concur with Nick for starters, and I wrote an article on my experience in our school, and I felt the same thing really. Like it's not even like okay, I might obviously disagree with Sassy in terms of certain political stuff. Like I can understand personally why there are LGBT.
I also like to say that school also is like schools like that. If you keep drumming it down certain kids' throats, they will go the other way.
Going the other way.
Oh no!
No.
If you're driving the other way, like NSN, like Oscar.
Ideology down someone's throat.
Right. Yeah.
Equal.
But yeah, on that's a sort of different note. But yeah, I understand why they do the pride stuff. Obviously it's about like visibility as well, and there's nothing wrong with that. But obviously, if you go too far and that's your only personality. But I do agree with Sassy as well about how, because I was in that sort of environment, I wasn't particularly controversial. I've always been, in this case, a leftist pretty much, but not one day did I feel like I belonged in that school. And because of that, what's called psychologically the horn effect as well, I'd always usually be in the center of rumors. And let's face it, maybe not that often, but I was probably called to the principal's office at least 2 or 3 times. There'd be some sort of controversial thing, but like Sassy was saying, you have all this stuff they go over the top about. I'm trying to think of a particular. Actually, no, that one example I can think of, because I don't remember the Sorry Day thing, but maybe just because I wasn't in that class.
The sorry.
No, I know. Yeah.
It was built around
the
national apology.
Yeah, I know. But so an example I remember is I was in this case, because I'm not mentioning any names, but it's the if I'm not even allowed to say this, it was the wife to the dean of students at the time, and she was teaching us geography. And I remember we had like this. It was actually quite well done. For example, this is what I mean. Like it starts off well done. We were given like these different foods, and the whole idea is that you kind of had a ballot of which food you'd get. So most people got something like rice. But what?
Oh, this was this thing. High resolve.
High resolve. Oh boy, I'm
What's high results?
Oh
No. It was in. Well, okay, it might have been something like that. But I remember we had this in class, and then when we went back to class after they were like stuff like most people got the rice, yeah, like you said, and some people had the sandwich, and I don't know, maybe the lasagna, like very Garfield like. But when I remember this teacher was like, "What did you guys think of this?" And ironically, the students like reacted as they were supposed to react to the education thing. They're going, "Oh, I found this kind of unfair." Most of us just had like, well, for a Western standard, maybe that they didn't like the rice so much. Maybe in this case, I'm the egg in this case because I preferred the rice and the bloody sandwich. So.
I remember getting the sandwich and I wanted the rice.
Yeah, exactly. So there was a bit of trading there. But anyway, I remember doing that, and the students reacted as they were supposed to react anyway, going, "I found this unfair." I'm not even joking, but the teacher was like screaming at us, going like, you guys should not expect this. You're so privileged. You're this and that.
Mm-hmm.
And
you are in the top 1%.
Yeah, and I'm like,
because that was the whole point of the exercise.
Well, yeah, exactly. So
the whole point was a guilt trip in that we are, in Australia, white Anglosphere country. Yeah, sorry for being successful. Sorry for having minerals. Sorry for being part of the greatest empire that ever has walked the face of this earth.
Right?
I
don't know about the empire stuff, but I do get what you mean with the privilege stuff.
The privilege was entirely a thing of, so what did you people do? Oh, some of you I noticed walked over to the 1% group who was having lasagna and salad and on plates and everything. Well, that is what immigration is. So you see that if you're from a poor country, that's what you do. You immigrate, and to add to this, on the day before, the day after, they sat there and had this thing of, we're going to watch some footage of racism. Me, I'm going, hell yeah, let's do it. I want to see if this stuff's up to scratch. And I'm saying this as a looking... No, obviously I'm not. But one of the songs they had over footage of the Cronulla riots was Viking Power Rock and Roll. That's the name of the song. And what do you think if they chose the song Viking Power Rock and Roll? Yeah, because you're going after white people. And I got excluded for saying that comment.
Wait, was this high results?
Yes. The same 3-day course.
What was the song about?
I looked it up, it was an actual neo-Nazi song, which they used over footage of the Cronulla riots. You couldn't get any more less subtle than going, if you do not sit there and bawl your eyes out at this, and it's, you're a sympathiser, you're a terrorist, whatever.
It was funny with the...
It was nasty, and this was being led by students.
Yeah.
So, Jish, what ended up happening with your story about the Harzol's teacher?
Oh, pretty much finished. Like, she shouted us to that. I don't know about this one, because, again, I might disagree politically with Sassy here. I know there might be a little bit of nuance to the Cronulla riots, but even so, it was...
There was no nuance in that conversation.
Yeah, okay, but it was a disgraceful day for most Australians anyway. It should be and all of that, even if it was started apparently because of, was it some Lebanese harassing fellas on the road. But obviously a race riot is just despicable. But I think actually a better example is oftentimes they go, and it goes with all the arguments as well, like with consent, with racism, with cyberbullying. What I'm going with this is they go, most forms, and even people, obviously not me so much because I'm white, but most people, like I'm sure of you, Homer, most people who aren't white have probably experienced some sort of racism in Australia. On the occasion, I mean, but usually it's subtle. Like, okay, maybe you get called gook or something, maybe on the occasion. But I mean, it's probably going to be more subtle than that. And that's the thing you should be looking out for. The same thing with, what I'm going with this is, usually the examples would be, I mean, even with the Cronulla riots example, which is obviously in your face, at least that's like full-on racism. But again, it's like, that's not usually how it goes. Like telling people, racism is just saying the N-word to black people. Well, yes, that's racist, but it's not usually obvious. It's better education to teach us.
No, but even
when
then,
it's insidious.
It gets worse when they go on about microaggressions. Because yes, you're taught to recognise obvious racism. But then these people take it in the direction of, you are born racist, you are implicitly racist.
I think that's rubbish, yeah.
And it's like, well, that's Adam and Eve. It's the same psychological framework of original sin.
Mm.
If you start telling children that out of the womb, they are forever tainted by the scourge of whiteness.
The scourge of
The scourge of whiteness, which I don't think is a scourge. I think it is something to be proud of. Good, bad, and ugly. There are a lot of beautiful countries around the world which are successful because of said whiteness, right? Did they get stuff wrong?
Well, I wouldn't call.
Did they
look.
get stuff wrong? Yes.
Yeah, I wouldn't say that.
I wouldn't frame it that way.
Of whiteness,
because it sounds like you're trying to frame it from some racial exceptionalist sort of angle, which obviously is some.
I get your point.
They
shouldn't
but
be.
I'm using it for effect. I'm using it for effect.
Okay, I think you're missing my point though, Sassy, because I'm not saying that it's acceptable to go, yeah, you're all racist or you're all oppressed. Obviously,
particularly kids.
No, all I'm saying is, like, okay, the microaggression thing, yeah, that can be a little bit silly sometimes, but although that does sometimes happen, like they say, don't go to a black person or may I touch your hair, which, to be fair, that shit does happen. But I mean stuff like, again, they use examples like going, well, maybe, yeah, sometimes they do go that route and go, oh, you be careful of your whiteness, or they go something like, don't say the N-word, as if it's that simple, and it's not usually more insidious. Same with cyberbullying. I remember they told us, for example, in school, and they got us in, especially for this seminar thing, they said, don't say fuck you online. That's cyberbullying. And I'm thinking, yeah, exactly. People
Have they ever
been in a locker room? They've gone and, like, leaked their nudes. They've gone and said, I'm going to fucking kill you. That's true cyberbullying. Same with the consent argument. They go, the case when these sexual assault cases do happen, either the person is generally just a controlling sadistic asshole who knows what they're doing, or it's sometimes legally grey. Like, they might both, for example, be kind of tipsy. You know, things that are a little bit grey there, and it might be something after the fact. It's not usually simply going, there's a woman who is completely knocked out, I think it'd be okay for me to have sex with her. Someone, probably some white gatekeeper, came out and said, no, don't do that. That's wrong. Now I know, with rainbows around. That's not how it usually works.
You want to talk about sounding English and how you had an English accent. It fully came out just in that.
That's interesting.
Pom detected, Pom accepted. You see, kids, we do accept everybody.
Well, I think also about like this inclusive. Also with this thing, inclusivity. If I may cut in for a second, if with this inclusivity stuff, a lot of the time, this moralizing about how people should behave around other people also comes from these, like, you know, white as mayonnaise, you know, enlightened people with these very British proper sounding accents too, ironically. Like,
the thing is, the people who are most obsessed about, like, you can only act a certain way, like, you can't have microaggressions, like, they're the ones who are thinking about racism that much. They're probably, like, naturally more racist.
Oh, yeah.
Look, no. And
Yeah,
that is
yeah.
actually like a Richard Spencer argument. He's like, the reason I have absolute disdain for conservatives is because they're colourblind, and your centre-left liberals, even though they are the biggest preachers and benefactors of diversity programs, is that they live in gated communities and they actually practice the racism that they abhor. So if you are truly racist, you would all be a kind of EU-loving, NATO-loving, centre-left sort of technocrat. And I'm going, okay, but what if you're not the biggest fan of the big gay? Just saying.
it's funny.
Just saying. And the other thing, all that LGBT stuff, right? That only works almost in like a tolerant sort of white sphere, because you know what? There are a lot of cultures around the world which aren't very tolerant to the rainbow crowd. Yeah, and this whole thing about, but we also accept Muslims. Have you ever looked at, you know, whether they think homosexuality should be put to death, in Muslim majority countries, or whether it should be illegal, or whether they should be put in jail?
It's like there's a
clear correlation between
there's surveys
democracies versus.
There's like surveys done of in like the UK and stuff, and it's like more than like more than 60% of them want gay people to be put in prison or something like that, based on the surveys.
Is that pure research, right?
Pure research. It's about 10 years ago that study was done, but it's I'd say it's pretty consistent.
Because the statistics are being used to basically, statistics are bad when they're being used properly.
Well, you know, you apply them to policy, and then they also, like, you know, then they start generating some, like, you know, furor online, that sort of thing. Like, if it starts some, like, big... No, furor. Yeah, well, you know, I said... It's difficult saying that word. You say... But, like, if you drum up some rabble online based on the statistic, obviously that's when it falls into the ground of what people like to call hate statistics, or, like, hate facts. It's like, when people jig up FBI statistics and then act like edgy 4chaners over like, crime stats, but I'm not going to go into that shit. But
what? I'm just a mere statistics enjoyer.
yeah, well, there we go. You know what I'm talking about?
The what?
Like when you go like hate facts and stuff.
Hate facts.
Oh, when people
love a good bit of
the whole bullshit around like 1352 and shit. So
that's
like
the problem is that with that, but that's
I don't know what that means.
Well, it is okay. So I'll spell it out.
I'm not going to explain it on this podcast.
No, we're not. No,
because
but
that would basically be a 3-hour podcast of me going right. Here's how to be a better ironic racist.
Well, yeah.
So this is like 1488, though.
No. 1352 is different. It's this 4chan hate fact, which is
bring back to high school.
Bring back to high school. Yeah.
You mentioned you got detention, like because of your
viewpoints.
Your viewpoints.
Oh no! To be fair,
I did.
No. Well, okay. Oh, that'll be interesting.
Okay, I want to hear that.
Yeah, sure.
Right. Well, I've got a couple of funny ones. Right. So we had on the opposite end of the big gay spectrum is we had a musical theatre kid, right? Blonde-haired, tall, athletic-looking bloke. Looks like a fucking member of the Von Trapp family. And I've just come back from a major operation, which realigned my foot, hip, knees, all of it. They've twisted it, and basically it's helped me walk better. Also made me lose 4 inches or a couple of inches. And he goes, I have something to say to the class. I'm gay. I'm gay. It's like, well, first off, I'm like, no shit. I've never seen him hang out with the boys. Musical theatre, likes High School Musical, had seen him painting nails. We knew. That's homophobic, but it's true.
Wait, that's homophobic to point out that we knew.
Yes, we knew.
What?
But he fit every, and I mean, sorry for screaming, but he fit every conceivable bloody stereotype.
And you got to detention for that.
I got pulled outside and threatened with detention.
What the
For
fuck?
what did they say?
For homophobia.
Homophobia.
For homophobia. This is like, okay,
That's
if you
great,
really
but
want me, and I said, no, sir. If you wanted homophobia, I would have called him a faggot.
You actually said that.
Yep.
No, but hang on. But what was his reason for saying that's homophobic? To say that we know you're gay?
I said no shit.
Yeah. That's
so they did 2 things. They pulled me up on the technicality of no swearing.
Okay, but that's not work detention, and that's not homophobia.
Oh my god.
No shit. We knew. Yeah. Well, I know. I would have. I didn't go full Fred Phelps on the poor bugger. I should have, in retrospect, because he was a dick to me and to a lot of people. And then actually at the end of high school, he called me a repressed homophobe. So basically he thinks I'm a gay person in the closet. That lovely Freudian argument, great stuff.
Yeah, like the spider lovers.
Yeah, bugger off. No, seriously. The other time, we were doing something on World War II, right? We were doing something on World War II. It was a year, I think it might have been either primary school or early high school. And I said, they were talking about World War II and certain mustache man and how awful he is, and rightly so.
Yeah.
Right? I get it. Fair enough. And I go, yeah, but what if you're trying to hail a taxi in Berlin and you have to put your arm up? And you have to put your arm up. Oh, what do you mean? Like this, sir. And I did the full thing. And it's like, yeah, but what if also you've had enough with high interest rates? I've had it up to here, Mr. High interest rates. And I got thrown into detention for spewing in Yahtzee ideology. Again, it's this sort of stuff.
When was this in history class?
This is in history class, like year 6 or year 7 or something like that. Now, I was always, and I still am, someone who loved edgy jokes, edgy comedians. I love Family Guy, I love South Park, I love Seth MacFarlane, Trey Parker, Matt Stone, The Simpsons, edgy transgressive stuff. It is, it's like a part of my soul. it's part of who I am. I've met this guy first time today, Homer, right? And all I'm doing is just cracking jokes. The first thing I was sitting there calling myself fat, right? Am I right or am I right?
You're right.
Yeah, exactly.
But we did meet earlier, though.
Yeah, well, I had such a good party, I don't remember. Right? Right. But yeah, like, it was their idea was if we overreact to the smallest thing, it'll scare them out of it. No. Me, I went up, I actually went and learned genuinely racist songs and said, if you want racism, I'll give you racism. And I kept pushing the boundary.
Did you do that much to get into detention?
No.
I think that was for different reasons, to be honest. I'm trying to think of some of the reasons I got into detention for though. Yeah, but nothing really relevant to the whole racism stuff, though. I think there were times when it's one of those moments, like straight out of a fucking cartoon or a TV show or something, when I just happened to be, even if I was only involved in the incident for 2 seconds, where I was caught red-handed with the other teacher. You know, the usual shit, like, they usually go, I don't care who started, I'm going to finish it, which is a code word for saying, I'm not going to look into the facts. Yeah. I saw you get into detention.
lazy teachers.
Yeah, 100%.
And it was always the PE teachers, wasn't it?
Or you got
the thing about the spotlit stuff is, again, like I did somehow avoid most of people mistaking me for somehow being racist or any of that sort of stuff. But it was usually like, let's just say some certain rumors around that a lot of other people were involved in the same time, but because I was also involved in and I was the odd one out, people would point that out. So, okay, an example I can give then is, all right, this is not on this discrimination thing, and like I said in my article, I don't see myself as a bully because fuck that. Yeah, fuck that. And I see I'm not a victim, but I suppose by definition it might be. But like there was a edgy sort of Wikipedia satirical thing at online called Encyclopedia Dramatica.
Oh, good old ED.
Good one. Everything you type up on there is basically snuff or some edgy stuff on there. And like a lot of people are in the school library, like at least 3 others are in the back there, typing into this stuff, going, haha, look, it comes up with all the porn and all the stuff. And then, they're all doing that. And I was like, oh, cool, I'm going to join in. I find this fun. So I put up something. In this case, it was Pokemon. And it came up with also some snuff and bullshit. Let's just call him this guy who I also wrote about in my article, who was kind of like my arch enemy. He pointed me out, obviously singled me out, and said,
does this bloke start with Ed?
No, it doesn't start with an N, no.
Good. Okay.
So what the
No, there's a guy we all know. He's basically in his late 20s, and he's basically lost most of his hair.
No. I'll tell you about it later. No, he pointed me out and obviously systematically ignored all the others, and then went up to tell other people about it. And the myth that I was looking up Pokemon porn in school, which, while technically true, everyone else was as well, which they conveniently missed out on, was a rumor for 5 years.
What?
Yes, 5 years. I had people who were like telling the story to others from other schools, going, "You're sick. You look up Pokemon porn." 5 years later. That's exactly what I mean by the horn effect.
Yeah. I'm sorry, bro. I'm actually sorry. It happened, and the other stuff that used to happen was this absolute fear around consent.
Yeah.
And I mean, I once fell on a person. I think this was in the last year of primary school, in a lift.
Oh, she was on crutches as well.
Yeah, she was on crutches. I'm there hobbling along to a class. And
for context, he has cerebral palsy.
Yeah. And I fall on her. This is before my operation. My foot's turning inwards. Stern and Jish could tell you before that it was very noticeable.
Yeah, he looks like he was born with a club foot.
Yeah, and it was really bad.
Even my dad pointed out. He said he's cool. Oh, I can't say the name, but yeah.
Yeah, he's calm. Yeah, I know. Great. One of my jokes. It's mine. Don't steal it. Anyway, this woman, I fall on her. I apologise. she then goes, this woman goes, Sassy tried to assault me. At 12 years old, mate. At 12 years old. We hadn't done sex ed yet. I'm sitting there going, what are they charging me with? What are they accusing me of?
Oh, shit.
Right? The mother then gets involved.
Yeah.
Pushing for me to be expelled from the school.
For context, the
that
mum of this kid
in a different room.
Yeah.
Away from the other children and guarded.
What?
Yeah.
No, that's not okay at all.
No.
The mum was pretty insane. She was like this single lesbian mum who had like these twins through IVF.
Yeah, the
and
test tube. We're going to call them test tube tragedies. Not our. What? That's what they are.
Yeah, I was best friends with the brother for years, and he was great to know for like, you know.
He's a nice kid.
Nice enough kid, very intelligent. Probably done through the whole IVF process of, oh yeah, I want to have a sperm donor who has a PhD sort of thing. You know, that's how it usually works. The woman approaches the IVF clinic and they ask them, oh, do you want someone with a PhD or something? And then they're like, yes, I want my kid to be successful. That's how it works. And then this kid's, he's got like top marks and stuff, but he doesn't have a dad. Neither of them have a dad. They never know. And they're just like totally fucking like, you know, disturbed through that absence in their life. And I don't know, like the girl had some serious issues trying to accuse like a disabled dude who tripped over in the lift onto her of rape. The brother had some serious issues around socialization.
It was more about like for a school that was anti-bullying. I got a lot of, we know you did it, and that we think that your parents are paying off the school and that you can do whatever the hell you want. Oh no, there were people that were doing whatever the hell they want. Indigenous scholarship students who could do whatever they wanted, who could walk out of class, who had their own support aids.
Oh, is that why, you know, who watch, you know, edgy stuff online in the library and messed around?
Oh, yeah. Well, when I wrote an article about it, I called him Gavin.
Yeah, Gavin.
I remember that. I did read that article.
Mm.
Yep.
Gavin Negroni, that's what we'll call him. Gavin Negroni. What an interesting fella.
It feels like your school had so many like different layers of like.
Yeah, it was
hierarchy.
layers of bureaucracy and bullshit.
It's actually a sitcom worthy. Like, one would be, you know, the most caricature type, quite honestly, progressives you'd see in a right wing media thing. Like,
yeah.
I'm saying this again as, and if anyone doubts me on all the political tests I've done, all the circles I'm with, as a relatively left wing progressive person, I am telling you,
and I'm an old school Labour voter.
In a fucking
Yeah, I'm an old school Labour voter. 50 fucking years ago, I would have been a dead, die-in-the-wolf union member, regardless of my upbringing.
Yeah.
I do believe in strong social programs, unions, but I do think we have to really rein in the BS of a very particular class of people who have too much time and money on their hands, who moralise about how guilty they are.
100%. Yeah.
That's what we're dealing with. And that was our whole experience of that school, and it's like it kind of formed me into the person I am today, to be honest.
Yeah.
No, actually, same with me.
Sort of these experiences fuck you up a bit.
From that, as I said in my article as well, was that when I went into uni, therefore, I really wanted to go out there into what I learned academically. Yes, I did an arts degree, you know, insert jokes here about I'm getting a degree to be unemployed, blah, blah. But
I did that as well.
Yeah,
we are overqualified to pour beers.
Yeah, and I wanted to increase my breadth and all that sort of stuff. Like, what I mean is, you know, they even talked about, even at university level, some people were like, should you teach this as a professor? Like, even just say theory in the past, controversial theory, should we be teaching this? It's like, yes, we should, because that's what it was like then. We need to know. In fact, that's the best way to combat
Should
these
we
ideas.
talk about Thomas Jefferson because he had slaves?
Yeah.
Yes.
Because of
he's
the
a founding
ideas.
father of the US.
Yeah.
I'm doing a US course. Yes, you should.
Yeah, and then you get to know the ideas of why his ideas are flawed, how they think, and some of the good ideas. If you just ignore them, you ignore everything to learn, including how you can combat.
Yeah. And these are the sort of things. Well, then you go. these exact types will go, then, well, that means Hitler had some good ideas. Well,
well, look, you got voted in for a ring.
not exactly.
I was saying
The
this
guy
is
who
someone
got rid
whose
of
grandparents went through the
unemployment
camps.
Everyone has a problem with the guy who got rid of unemployment in 3 years. They had a problem with him because he knocked off all the funny people and destroyed entire communities. It's not because he got rid of unemployment and put people to work and restored pride in the country. It's because he killed a bunch of people.
It's true.
I'll pass it to my friend Homer again.
Homer.
Well, Homer.
What am I supposed to add to this?
Well, you were basically saying before to us, before you Mike had a little bit of a fart session. Our school was indeed like a menagerie of different weird personalities, and there was more personality diversity than there was probably real ethnic diversity. And
Isn't that just called personality disorders?
Yeah.
Well, the thing is, like, within a community, you have more diversity within the community than across communities.
You do, yeah.
It's like, for example, in China, right? People don't say, like, "Oh, I'm Chinese," because everyone's fucking Chinese. It's just like, right? In China, they say like, "What city are you from?" Because each city has its own flavor, and like the same in Australia. Like, people don't say like, "Oh, like." Well, I guess Australia's more multicultural, and it's like you can kind of see like where people are from, but like, Sydney-siders and Melburnians, like they have their own flavor to it.
I mean, mate, exactly.
It's because they want to differentiate themselves. They want to like, be different. And I suppose in high school, like that's especially amplified. But the thing is, in your school, it just seems like you had like a top-down kind of differentiation. Like it was almost like you're gay and you're not. You're like
this and that.
You're this and that, and it's like they're kind of like dividing and conquering within the student.
They went after me and said, "We think that either you're faking a disability." I'm sorry, I can't fake wearing splints. I can't fake how I walk, and particularly how I used to be.
If you could fake that, then you should be paid $1 million.
I'm a bloody method actor.
And go to Hollywood.
I should be going to Hollywood. Andy Kaufman, Phil, whatever, all the great method actor characters, eat your heart out. If I've been lying for 27 years, well then, far out. That's a talent I didn't even know I had.
Yeah. I think, what we can take away from this for sure, though, is to be tolerant, you got to be actually true to what you preach. Yep. You're the worst kind of person if you say that you're progressive, but then you go hunt down people like Sassy, and let's face it.
My favourite bullying technique was, "We know you did it."
Yeah, because
you would just sit there and go, "Hey, look, we know that you avoided detention."
Yeah, purely
like a mafia style standover.
Yeah, but purely
that's what discrimination is. That's just like they're discriminating you, but they're not. It's not like blatant. It's not like, "Oh, you're crippled," ha ha ha. It's
wolves in sheep's clothing.
Yeah.
At least someone who's an actual bigot, as much as I wouldn't like them, if
we know actual bigots, and there's a reason why I still have them on my phone. It's because at least with them, I did have this realization. That was one of the few things that he never, ever went after. He never goes after people with autism, cerebral palsy, because he goes, "Look, you can't." I think that if you're the stronger race or whatever, you don't go after people who are weaker than you. And I went, wait. You go after all the Asians, you go after all the Jews, you go
Who's
after...
this?
You know who.
But which mention it?
I'm not going to mention his name, but you know who.
But what does it rhyme like?
White Rose.
White Rose bloke, yeah. He doesn't go after people with cerebral palsy. That guy has better standards, morals, and can at least you can have in my opinion, have a beer with him on that level compared to people who go, "I am the number one progressive." Jish, I want to get your take on this.
If I can cut in for a second. This guy, I knew. I mean, look, he's been doxxed like twice now.
No, I don't want to dox him again. He's a good bloke.
I don't know about that.
I agree.
I don't know about that. Maybe he's nice to you, but the thing is, last time he saw me and he explained how much the first doxing like fucked up his life because I happened to be at a party that like someone decided to invite him. I definitely wouldn't have. He comes up to me and tells me, everything that happened. And then I told him, by the way, did you ever know I was Jewish? And then he goes, oh, I never noticed you had Ashkenazi features. And I'm like, the big nose,
Intelligent, no.
Well, it's not that big.
No, it's not that big. Yeah, but I know it's not big. It's because I've got like 50% like continental European heritage, and then the rest of me is that Semitic heritage. So the dominant side of my facial features more comes from like the Estonian and the Scottish stuff rather than like the Jewish stuff.
Yeah, but you get all the other mannerisms, don't you?
Oh yeah, oh that's good to know. And then but it's just it's pretty mental. I mean I don't know. I thought I'd ask a little bit more about I've guess our school was just a bit insane, to be honest.
And we haven't even gotten to the mega, like there was a person, non-binary, that person, who, whatever, trans whatever's in the words of Tony Soprano, wasn't trans, but I love that saying.
I call it low budget trans.
Low budget trans, that's what they were, by the way. Why do I sound like Trump? Well, it's true. There was this woman who was big into Japan, would bully her brother.
Yeah, she physically used to beat her brother.
A rainbow, whatever, right? Huge problems. But they were allowed to get away with Blue Moon, apparently.
Oh, she once got the detention for flipping a few tables in the middle of class.
Oh yeah, no, she threw a table at me because I called her a palm.
Yeah. Yeah, she also flipped a table.
Not a palm, and then just threw it at my table.
Yeah.
Now, mind you, if someone threw a table at me now, I'd be like, sweet, another couple $100 on the Centrelink.
Yeah. This girl ended up flipping a table in the middle of class because a Korean guy kind of came up to her and is like, it talks about a flash game. Goes, oh yeah, kitten cannon. And she had this obsession with cats, and she ended up like flipping the table and then just storming out of class.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, it was just weird.
Yeah.
Is this the person? It sounds like instead of fats, it's starch. Sounds like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, you can't say it, but we're high-fiving. That is brilliant.
Starch.
No, you do not say the name.
I won't say her name. Yeah. Well, she had like this Japanese name, so we'll just like call her Kiran. But like, she wasn't Japanese. Yeah. It was a Japanese name. Her name was like Japanese for gift or some weird like that.
Japanese?
Yeah.
It was the gift that kept on.
Yeah. Yeah, her she was like one of these weird sorts of like her mum was Italian Australian, but one of these weirdos who got obsessed with Japan, so basically would call her like non-Japanese kids Japanese names and like raise them on anime or something like that. And then and every time I think this girl was autistic, so Kieran was autistic, and she had these over the top reactions to everything because she watched all this anime, and that's how she basically felt like emotional regulation worked.
Dancing like that as well, the anime kind of dance.
Oh yeah, she used to. This girl used to. She's the cat ear headphones. Yeah, she was always wearing them, and then the body cosplay that she did for Year 12 mock-up day, and it basically like she was too fat for the cosplay, so it looked like she was like a human cupcake or something like that.
You want to talk about like bullshit progressivism? Fat phobia. If you even mention, you can't say that to people, you're fat. That's fat phobia. Like, I'm sorry.
Well, I feel like the moment that they've basically died of an obesity-related illness, that they're the ones that we're the ones who are still laughing because we're alive.
And that's it. Like, and even as someone who is quite big. Well, not quite big, but like I'd stand to lose a bit of weight. I think you guys would somewhat agree, right?
Sure.
Yeah.
I guess.
Yeah. That is something within your control. That it is not a group that anyone wants to be a part of. Well, why are you the way you are? Oh, because I like to eat too much.
Yeah. Like, no one wants to be part of the group because no one can get through the door.
Yeah, exactly.
You want
to talk about narcissism and things orbiting around you. Imagine being so big, you have your own fucking center of orbit.
Have you got any wacky stories from school, like the
No,
level?
actually, like,
I mean, like, I was going to pass on to Homer for a second because he went to a completely different school to both of us. So I just thought, like, we had a girl actually. I won't say her name, but she was. I think she, Chinese background, but she moved, last name Dong, moved to Fort Street, and he actually knew her. No, he did.
Yeah,
Oh
right.
yes, yeah. Actually, no. She was in my grade.
Can you give me more
Yep.
clues? I might know.
No. We're not doxing it.
No, it was rhyming. Like,
But her, let's say, rhymes with Monica, and the last name was Dong.
Monica.
I won't say her actual first name.
We'll tell you after.
Yeah, I'll tell you after. Can you just talk a little bit about your school quickly, so we have a bit of content on that too?
Okay, so in comparison, my school demographics, right? It was about like 50% non-white in the grade, and then the other 50% was like white, or maybe it's slightly less than 50%. But like of the non-whites, it was like majority like East Asian, and then the other side is like Southeast Asian, right? So the thing is, like, there wasn't like, I don't think the LGBTQ stuff was like that strong in the initial years. It's just like slowly developed, and I think our school being like one where they prize music and arts a bit more, it was like, and also being in the West, it was kind of like a slow transition of like, oh, you had like the high resolves thing in like year 9, and they start talking about like, wear it purple day and all that. But we also had a guy who was like on the spectrum as well, but he wasn't like singled out and like blamed for like various things, or like, but also I guess he wasn't as outspoken as Nick was. So like, cause he was, I feel like in our school there was a bit more segregation between like white and like non-white people. Like there was a group within the whites who like literally just kept to themselves, and then the rest of us were just like slowly like intermingle within the rest of us. So it's like in that way, when I
mainly mingled. Most groups mingled. Or?
Yeah, most groups like mingled. Yeah,
that's good.
Yeah, and it was like, I think it's partly because of the less focus on, I guess, top down stuff, like being more inclusive, that we were actually able to be more inclusive.
Actually, that's a good point. Isn't that rather ironic? Yeah, exactly. If you don't push it, in some ways it probably comes about naturally. I mean, in some ways, yeah, Yeah.
And,
at the very least, when you are in, separate circles, it's not for any insidious reason. Just, you understand each other's cultural paradigms better. If you're East Asian, you're going to understand other East Asians better. White people are going to understand other white people better on average.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing insidious.
Yeah, I mean, go read the book Bowling Alone by Robert Putnam, because there was, this idea that if we just mix cultures together willy-nilly without any sort of consideration, everyone will trust each other. Well, it's kind of the opposite. It's almost as if you have something in common, things are going to be a little bit more harmonious and you're going to trust people.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. But the thing is, like, I feel like if you put a bunch of people from like different nations together and under like, I guess, ideal circumstances, like if there was no like pressing issues, like they probably would get along like fine. It's just when you have like pre-existing like prejudices, or like you have like top-down stuff that like, oh, telling people to do this and do that, then you have like issues. Yeah. Because funnily enough, the people who were the most progressive with like this kind of ideology, like they were the insular white groups.
Which is like, if they were like, this is, I don't like the boomer talking point, like, but the left are the real exclusionists, the left are the real racists. But it's like times like this where you go, that's what they mean. They're actually better at in-groups than people on the supposed right.
Yes, it's the in-grouping. That's the thing. Like,
they're a lot better at going, I'm going to have the same friend group. I'm going to keep my network tight. Whereas a lot of conservatives, I don't think they're political people. And I don't mean political in terms of how you vote. It's just how you conduct yourself. They don't have an in-group. They'll have a drink with anyone. Like myself. They'll hang out with anyone. We'll crack jokes with people that we've literally only met a couple of times. Like, it's a different thing. Whereas I think people like that, they keep to themselves. And they let very few people in.
I used to work for the University of Sydney before I got my current job. And I was like working in the hospitality part of the university, which basically like did all the 5-star dining and drinks for the graduation ceremonies and that sort of thing. And a lot of people were gay. A lot of people were like adjacent, that sort of thing, to gay. Very neurodivergent as well, and very insular sort of like working personality space. And I don't know how to feel about it any other way. I mean, it wasn't even as bad as some of the other students who went to the university. Like, half the time we were joking about like the SRC, which was full of like these really, really dysfunctional socialist alternative sort of people who were probably going to drop out of their degree anyway. Like, I just look at them and they're like what? So like they're asking. The only thing that they ever get like asked to do when they're on the SRC is like, do you want to increase funding for mental health services, or do you want to increase funding for like student support services? But they only get given a certain amount of cash, because if they were actually given any more, they would not actually run the proper university.
That is so
hilarious. No, it's actually no. They get no, as in like when they're on the SRC, the way the whole the way the whole thing's structured is that like the university administration's not stupid enough to actually like give the full budget to the SRC, so they only give like 5 to 10% of the budget or something like that for them to choose to spend. The rest obviously is not going to be asked for the students to like spend, because what then, like me working for like the the dean, or the working for the chancellor or something like that the student protesters hate, we're not going to have a job. We're not going to be able to probably serve like drinks for fundraising and stuff like that, because maybe there's millionaires who are going to give some money to the uni or something. Like, there's certain things that the SRC will never be allowed to touch, because they know that like a lot of these students will probably want to try and fuck it up.
Yeah, no, that's very true. Yeah, but talking about the money as well. In case, though it might be a new topic and it's getting kind of late now, but another thing about high school I wanted to share as well, which is probably a little less complicated though. I'd also say because Homer said something about as well the money expenditure on the what was it? The
my connection base. Lost apparently.
With the double bass thing you said before, I think our school as well, Mr. Stern's and Sassy's school with me, of course, was that they kind of spent their money pretty badly. But yeah, outside of that though, I remember what they did do, literally, is they put in like these giant flower pots on the side of the hall with some different sort of curtains. And I also remember there was a building that won an award. I think I did write this in my article as well. I can't.
Is that the KM building?
Yes,
that is now
the KM building.
Was meant to be a new, because this is a school right in the middle of the city, which hasn't got the classic private school, expansive open fields that you'd see at Scott's, Cranbrook, Shaw, whatever, right?
Yep.
That was meant to be a sports centre / classrooms.
I didn't know it was a sports centre. I knew it was a classroom, at least an office.
What happens to that, G? Only the teachers were allowed to use it. It was only used by students when it was meant to be for filming for stuff, mainly for fundraising. And it's now very rarely used.
Like, I thought the students using it.
Pardon?
I remember the students using it.
Yeah, but it was like that took because of genuine pushback.
I don't even remember that. All I remember is that it was so well, that's not even that, but it was also hilarious, almost like the postmodernist wank out of it, because the building is literally one of those unimaginative boxes with those windows that look kind of different shaped blobs. So it's like I think some people even call it like the cheese building. And it got an award for it. And I'm thinking, literally, even out of those types of postmodern buildings, it is the same as the other ones. I do not know why it needs an award. I don't think it had anything even functionally innovative about it. And like Sassy said, I did not know it was even supposed to be used for a gym, but I do know, I think it was supposed to be, or at most, maybe the gym was that area that the early learning kids ran around in. I don't know, something like that. And it was supposed to be a larger office for the language department because our school was big on languages. I think that's the only thing they did right. The other times, the other places were just used for multifunctional halls, and they didn't really use that much either. And I'm like, so that, and I was really pissed off about how the school used up all that money. Yeah, they changed the school uniform as well. They claimed it was because it was easier in the wash. But I also remember, and this does tie into the progressive sort of attitude there is I found this rather weird. They said they changed the school uniform into a gender neutral uniform, which is fine, but their reason for that
No. I've got something. Bombshell.
Hang on. Yeah, when they had it as a gender neutral uniform, I was like, yeah, it's fine with the reasons for that. Like, it's fine if they want to make it gender neutral, but their reason was if someone wants to go to school and wants to is gender diverse, then it wouldn't matter. But I'm thinking, well, if you're a truly accepting school, you shouldn't care already if one of the students comes in as a guy wearing a skirt. Well, now not a guy or whatever they associate with. You should already be accepting of that. But not. And when they change the uniform, these aren't even cheap uniforms either. They were some of the worst clothes I've ever worn in my life. I'm not even joking. Like the formal uniform, I don't know how they did it. It was thin. Yeah, it was. Yeah, you couldn't breathe at all. We were sweating like pigs in summer, and it was like we were naked in the winter. It was that. It was zero seasonal clothing.
Yeah. It was even worse. So, in 2017, a queer news publication,
Pink News.
right? I was going to use the F word, but yeah, whatever. I was just going to call them, Yeah. Anyway, right? That it gets recorded that, the gender neutral uniforms, right? We are going to abolish it, and it's going to be gender neutral.
More money to spend.
For fucking kindergartners.
What the fuck?
Right? For kindergartners. Turns out that's not what happened. I found out from the principal. There was meant to be an update on the uniform policy, and their uniform policy was quite a classical liberal one, which is we don't really care about what people do with their uniforms insofar as they are good people, they are trying their best in school, they're getting good marks, so we will allow kids to have pierced ears, colours in their hair, streaks. They can put a bobby pin up in the skirt, do you know what I mean? Basic, they can. However, it cannot distract from their learning. As long as it doesn't do that, no worries. This one homosexual teacher.
There's also an underwear model in his spare time.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Massive activist. Massive activist. The same bloke.
They didn't know that we discovered it.
The same bloke. The same bloke that was telling the kid who just came out of the closet, this is the gay film festival. Are you going to march in Mardi Gras? Yeah. Right? You are not allowed to. If that was another kid going, hey, are you interested in this, that, and the other, we'd have problems. But he sat there and leaked it to Pink News and said, we're going to have a gender-neutral uniform. Do you understand?
Yeah,
he leaked it to a gay, queer, activist publication. Allegedly. Now, that's what actually, it's not alleged. It's what I was told. Do you see the difference? Classical liberal, hey, look, we'll let kids express themselves, but we're still a school and we're interested in academics and people doing well. Which isn't that how a school's meant to be?
Yeah.
What does this guy do? That means it's free reign. You give these guys an inch, they'll take a mile.
Yeah, when I said it was insidious, like you saying that.
That's it. Well, if that's insidious, if that ain't insidious, I don't know what is.
Jish, would you say that's insidious or?
Yeah.
I think at the very least, I think all teachers in general should be more apolitical.
Yeah, trying to rope kids into politics if they just come out and like trying to rope them into like that really radical, weird, like activisty LGBT stuff when they've come out as gay. Trying to tell them that they need to like go to all these festivals and stuff like that. Like you might try and think that's innocent, but like they were also just trying to get them to campaign on politics. And like my housemate, who's a close friend, the guys we're talking about, he did not want to do any of that. And then like props to him for like seeing through the transparently seeing through all that crap.
Through the trans.
Well, he also had to go through some bullshit because he had a partner in the grade below who's also started illegally doing hormone replacement therapy. So like knew some person on Discord. Yeah. So they're under 16 and they couldn't legally get hormone replacement therapy. So they just like this is before the days of Chris Tyson. And so instead, he had contacted some other person on a Discord chat who was trans as well and started illegally getting estrogen like through that person.
Oh, that person would get in trouble then as well.
Yeah, no, they'd been in heaps of trouble, but they were illegally taking HRT under the age of 16. And my friend, like who I'm like housemates with, was having to deal with this crap with this younger boyfriend slowly becoming like trying to transition to become a girl. Well, slowly becoming girlfriend, but
that's just if that is the case, that's just being straight with extra steps.
Yeah. Well, it gets to the stage where you're basically when it's that halfway point where you can't really tell what the person is, so you basically just like got like an alien life form in your hands, and you're sort of like you don't know what the hell they are, and you're like, I don't know what's going on with my own mental health because I have to entertain this bullshit.
Yeah.
I don't know. He had to leave at some point because this person was getting toxic as well.
Oh, no, it's fair enough to leave as well for that, like for your own sake and all that. If anyone really who's going off the rails a bit.
Yeah.
Anyway, I think we're getting late for time. Is there any finishing remarks on everything we spoke
about? Well, look, in true Contemplation deck fashion, it's called the Contemplation deck for a reason because we just deeply explore different avenues of thought and we meander a lot. And I'm probably going to have to summarize the different topics we've covered. AI is going to help with that. But look, this has been the Contemplation deck with the Stern Golem and the host, Fish and Jish. We've had Sassy and the other guy, Homeless, join us for the podcast. Special guests there, yeah, real life guests. Sassy has commented a few times. He's appeared with me on a secret podcast with Bolt Bismarck about a year ago.
It's not secret if you.
Well, no, but I mean, look, I'm not going to link it, but like, long story short, this has been the Contemplation deck. All opinions of your own.
Need to have this group again.
Yeah.
Actually, I like him because he's the most normal in the rest of us.
I don't know about that.
Yeah, but let's just say.
Oh, you are an engineer, so sorry.
Give us a proper wrap up. This has been the Contemplation deck with the Stern Golem, Fish and Jish, Homeless, and Sassy the Sasquatch.
Yeah.
And all opinions are your own, even if you hold them for 5 seconds. Thank you very much.
Right,